Okay. Is that better now? Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, watch this in YouTube. Yes, but I will answer those questions towards the end of the session. I'm sorry about that slight delay. I was facing some connectivity issues. Without further ado, let's get to today's session, which will be on resume writing. I am Tessa and I'll be facilitating this session for you. Right. So, all of us will have to prepare a resume at some point or the other. This session, we have planned this communication skills workshop as a primer of sorts. You need to be aware of certain skills which you will have to gain mastery over in your professional career at this stage of your education. Because after this, people will not try to teach you these skills. They will just assume that you already have the necessary knowledge and the necessary skill set in place. That is the intention of this communication skills workshop. Now, including a resume as a part of this workshop is also to say that a resume is essentially a document that shows your communication skill. So, how does a resume really show your skill to communicate? Or what does a resume communicate? These are the things that we'll see in today's session and today's and tomorrow's sessions. So, we'll look at what are the contents of a resume, how do you structure it, how can you make your resume a compelling one, how can you make your resume stand out from a bunch of resumes which every HR person is going to be flooded with, right? How do you decide or format a resume? How do you add cover letters to your resume? Or if you need to add references, how do you add references to your resume? These are the things that we'll cover in today's and tomorrow's sessions. Now, what is a resume? First of all, the pronunciation is important. It is not resume, it is not resume, it is resume. Okay? So you need to get that pronunciation right. If you mispronounce it, people will assume that you are not a high quality candidate. You are not fit for the job. Okay? So pronunciation is also a communication skill in this case, and you should say it as resume. A resume is a short, a concise document which will formally summarize your education, your work experience, your skills, and your achievements in no more than 2 to 3 pages. A 3 page resume is a long resume. Typically, it would not be any longer than 2 pages. Okay? And even when it is 2 pages long, you should make sure that all the important information, all the information that you want your hiring manager to immediately notice, goes on the first page of the resume. So, length is of importance, but also the formatting, the structuring is of equal importance. Unless you want to communicate something, please keep your videos off. Okay? I don't mind it if your video is on, but I also want you to be aware of the fact that this meeting is recorded. Right. What is the purpose of your resume? A resume will outline your relevant skills and experience for the benefit of whom? Not for your own benefit, but for the benefit of somebody who's looking to hire you or recruit you. So you have to assume right at the onset of beginning to craft your resume that whoever is reading your resume is not going to have a great attention span. This person is not going to look for reasons to hire you. Instead, they'll be looking for reasons to eliminate you. So keep that in mind when you are drafting your resume. Okay? So your resume should display the benefits that you bring to the table to the company that you will be working for or to the people who are looking to hire you. It should immediately grab the attention of the employers or the hiring managers. It should match you to the position at hand. That is, your resume should clearly communicate that all the skills that they are looking for somebody who would fit into this job description are also skills that you possess. So, in a way, this is like matching you to the job description. And ideally, this resume should be able to lead you to an interview. If the resume is drafted properly, if the resume is successful, then you would land an interview to a job through this resume. Everything all right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Everybody
You can.
understood everything so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
No, no.
Now, now we need to look at a bit of terminology. We often hear CV, which is a curriculum vitae, and then we hear resume. Oftentimes we use the two terms interchangeably, right? Uh, unless you want to say something, I would suggest that you mute your mics because it might cause an interference. Right. Oftentimes we use the two terms interchangeably, but there is a slight difference between the two. Just like we paid special attention to the pronunciation of the word resume, we also need to pay special attention to the pronunciation of the word curriculum vitae. Vitae, okay? That is the correct pronunciation. The difference between a resume and a CV primarily relates to the length of the document. A resume is never longer than 3 pages, and a 3-page resume is a very long resume, right? A CV can be longer than 3 pages. There is no standard length requirement for a CV. Similarly, because of this reason, a CV is typically used for academic positions, whereas a resume is typically used for hiring requirements. If you are looking to land a job as, say, a professor or a researcher, or if you are making a fellowship application, if you are trying to get admitted into an education for an educational institution for your higher education, in all of those cases you would use a CV. Because the focus here is on accommodating as much of your educational qualifications or your research interests as possible into that document. If, on the other hand, you're looking to apply for a job, you would typically use a resume. Because the focus here is on simply matching you and your skill set, your qualifications to this particular job at hand. The requirement is more limited in this particular situation. That is why a resume is typically shorter than a CV. Sometimes geographic locations can also influence this terminology. In places like South Africa, India, and Australia, we tend to use a resume more. And in places like New Zealand, the United Kingdom, and parts of Europe, the term CV or curriculum vitae is more in circulation, more preferred. Okay? This can be one of the influencing factors, but this is not a hard and fast rule. People can ask for a resume even though they are located in the United Kingdom. You are supposed to make this distinction while you are drafting the document, however. Do not make a 5-page resume, in other words. Okay? What are the essential sections that should be included in a resume when you are structuring it? What information should you add to your resume? How do you decide on what is the suitable content of a resume? And while we are discussing this, I want to remind you that a resume is not something that you make overnight. While you are studying, you are building a resume. Whether or not you get around to writing it, you are actually building your resume while you're studying. You take on an internship. That is something that is building your resume. You present a paper somewhere. That is something that is building your resume. You participate in a hackathon. It is building your resume. You do a small academic project, maybe. That is building your resume. Now, while you're doing these things, you might not be aware of the fact that you are building your resume, but I just want to remind you that you are. So, hereafter, whenever you undertake any of these projects, be aware that you are, in fact, building your resume. So, make a note of it. This goes into my resume. And then put in so much of effort into the task, into the project, that you will stand out in your resume. Right. You should add your contact information. Your contact information in this day and age oftentimes does not include your address, especially if you are applying for a job located overseas. In the government sector, your address is still very much required, but in the private sector, sometimes it is your, let's say, your phone number or your email ID, your social media profile, the link to it might be more important than your physical home address. So make sure that you are adapting this information as per context requirements. Okay? Then there is something called a resume objective or a resume summary. We will see that there is a small difference between the two as we go along in today's session. You need to add a resume objective or a resume summary. You need to add your educational qualifications. Sometimes jobs require something like the primary qualification required is a master's degree in such and such a field. So that should be listed first. If that is your most recent educational qualification, that should be listed first. That's the thing with educational qualifications in a resume. You go in descending order. Your most recent or your highest degree comes first, and then you go backwards, right? Chronologically backwards, I mean. If you have any work experience or any internship experience, any volunteering experience, you can add that in your resume. Any skills that you possess. As data scientists, this is a very important section for you. Skills are sort of like your forte. Even when you are, introducing yourselves for, let's say, an interview or as part of a writing assignment, you guys tend to focus a lot on skills. And that is very important. Do that in your resume as well. If you have any achievements, you need to list that in your resume alongside these other sections. This is just a quick tabulation in order to give you an overview of what goes where. Let's say you have a master's degree in the required area from a really prestigious university. But your CGPA is not very high. You've graduated, but your CGPA is not very high. In that case, do not list your CGPA. Okay? But your CGPA is quite high. If that is the case, you can list your CGPA. It's given 3.2 or higher here. That is on a 4-point scale. But at IIT Madras, we use a 10-point scale. So be aware of that. If your CGPA is on the higher side, you can list it. Because you're trying to use things that will work to your advantage here. Right? Let's say you're not listing your CGPA. You will have to focus more on your skills and experience. Look at all the skills I have. Look at all the experience that I have. Focus on that, not on my CGPA. That is essentially what you are saying here. Okay? If you have received any academic honors or awards, that will go under e-education. Any certifications or scholarships. Now, scholarships can also come under achievements. Let's say it's a very prestigious scholarship that can come under achievements. But it is also possible to put it under education if it is specifically an educational scholarship. If you have any international experience, licensures. What are licensures? We will say things like licensed medical practitioner. A clinical psychologist, for instance, needs to be licensed. A company secretary, licensed. A notary, licensed. Chartered accountants, licensed, right? So these are licensures. If you have any licensures, you can include that under your education. If you've done any project as a part of your degree, I had to do a master's project. So if you have done a master's project, attending a workshop comes under education. It does come under education. But if you are specifically it also, I guess, can depend on the nature of the workshop. If it is more like a workshop where you are learning a skill, if it is an academic workshop, it would be more fitting to put it under education. If it is more like a practical workshop, somewhere where you pick up a skill, it might be more relevant under the skills section. Okay? Clear? It is network security. In that case, I think it would come under education. Okay. Right. So we have more or less discussed everything else that is on the table. Internships, volunteering work, all of that will come under experience, any kind of work experience that you have. If you've completed some kind of training, skills training would go under skills, academic training would go under education. If you are the member of any kind of prestigious organization, if you have some kind of leadership experience, you can also put that under achievements or skills as required or as suitable. Any more questions so far?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Ravikant, for being so prompt with your replies. Okay. There are some additional sections or some optional sections. Your technical skills can come under these optional sections. Any publications you have published, that can be an optional section. If you speak like several different languages, if, for example, you are making an application to Germany and you speak German, you should list that, okay? But on the other hand, you are making an application to a country where the language that you speak is not a necessary part of your job description. In that case, languages is an optional section. Right. A lot of times, students have a lot of trouble crafting their resume. And the reason that they give is that they don't have a lot of experience. Now, I want to disabuse you of this notion right here. Yes, you can get recording of the class. We shall address that question towards the end of the session. Voice is breaking a little bit. Okay, give me a minute. Is that better?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So the reason that students give a lot of time is that they don't have a lot of experience. So what will we put in our resume anyhow? When you study in an institution like IIT Madras, you can't really use that excuse. Every course that you do there is of immense importance. Everything that you do as a part of that course translates directly as experience. So what you're saying essentially is that you don't know how to communicate to a prospective employer that the things that you have learned or the things that you've done as a part of the course do directly translate as experience. This is where a resume becomes a communication skill. Okay? So pay keen attention to every project or every assignment that you do as a part of the course. And think about how you can craft a narrative of that particular assignment as something that ties in directly with the industry where you are hoping to get hired. These can't be relevant things. Where you study, the things that you are taught are certainly not irrelevant. So you have to find a way to translate the fact that the things that you study do indeed tie in with the needs of the industry. So find the language there, hence a communication skill, you see. Tailoring a resume. Tailoring is a very interesting word to use in this context. It's like you are trying to measure yourself against a given job description and stitch yourself a resume that fits the job description. Hence tailoring. Everything that you put into your resume needs to be carefully thought out. This is also something that ChatGPT cannot do for you. This careful thinking out part, right? Everything that you've done, every bit of your experience, you have to be aware of it and you have to be very selective about what you put into your resume. This is where your own involvement is required in the drafting of your resume, in addition to whatever ChatGPT can help you with, right? So do not downplay your own. Okay, Monica will address that question towards the end of the session. Do not downplay your own importance in the drafting of your resume simply because you have other tools available. You have a job description, so you read that thoroughly. The next step is to customize your resume to the needs that are specifically listed by the employer in that job description. If you use the keywords that are used by the employer in the job description, you can surpass ATS systems or applicant tracking systems very effectively. When you customize your resume as per the requirements of the employer, it also reveals to them, it shows them that you are really interested in this opportunity. You're not just randomly, blindly sending out one common resume to every possible available job, right? You are carefully looking at the job description. You are seeing whether or not you have those skills, and you are trying to tell the employer that, look, I have exactly what you are asking here. It shows that you're really invested in the opportunity. Okay? So that is already a point in favor of you. You need to make sure that when you customize your resume for each job application, your skills and your experiences align with the requirements of the job. Every job description will have this question.
Ma'am, you are not audible.
Hello, ma'am.
Ma'am, your voice is gone.
Well. Oh, my voice is gone. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, may I ask a question? Are these sessions are good also for the interview building resume, which are for interviews? or which are for internships? Sorry, which are for internships? Are these sessions are good for the internships resume?
Okay. Akbar Rehan, can you please repeat your question? I'm sorry, I went to sort out my connectivity
I,
issues.
yeah, I've been asking that are these sessions are totally good for the person who want to apply or want to create a resume for the internships? I mean, are these sessions are totally good for those students who are actually fresher?
Of course, that's exactly what I've been trying to tell you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sahil, you have a question? Yeah, ask.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, can I add my competitive exam that I have qualified to my resume?
What competitive exam are you talking about? Is this a
Uh,
specific competitive exam for
Previous year,
admission?
last year, I qualified for IP MAT for
Okay,
IM
so
Roger.
so if this is a competitive exam that is specifically designed for admission to a specific institute, no, you can't.
Okay.
If this is a competitive exam that certifies the fact that you have acquired a certain skill or a certain qualification, then yes, you can.
Okay, thank you,
The
ma'am.
thing with competitive exams is that competitive exams design admission is that cracking the exam is not your achievement. Cracking the exam and then completing the degree is your achievement. So you'll have to list the achievement as the degree, the completion of the program. That is what goes into your resume. Clear?
Ma'am, can we add NPTEL courses to our resume?
NPTEL courses, yes, of course. If they are relevant to the job description for which you're applying or internship for which you're applying, yes, you can. NPTEL courses can be added to your resume.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. How about GATE score? Does it play a crucial role in our CV? Okay, so about GATE score, I still feel that it is, essentially an exam designed for admission to an institute. So typically, that would not be the kind of thing that can be listed as an achievement in your resume. What did you do with that GATE score? That is the question. With that GATE score, where did you get admission to? What program did you pursue? And how have you been faring in that program? What skills have you acquired as a part of that program? Ask yourself these questions. Okay? I understand that competitive exams are really difficult to crack. Yeah? Now, if you are somebody who is maybe in the first semester of your degree, let's say, I'm just giving a random example here. If you're in the first semester of your degree and the experience of the competitive exam is still fresh, so you have not yet had the time to complete the degree. However, you have gained admission to a prestigious institute and you want to highlight that in your resume. In that specific context, yes, you can list your GATE score. But you'll also have to list what has come out of that GATE score. Where did you get admission to? What have you been doing with it? Okay? But there is also a point, like let's say you have graduated. At that point, you've also outgrown your GATE score. That will no longer be relevant to you or to your resume. Is that clear? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Right. Just to sort of illustrate the how you can align your experiences or your skills with what the employer is looking for. Let's say the job description lists leadership skills. Okay? Or let's say the job description lists something like a self-starter. You can use that exact same phrase in your resume in relation to any particular role you've handled. It could be an educational role, it could be a project or an internship role, it could be anything of that sort. By using that specific keyword in relation to your own experiences, you are giving your employer an example of how you demonstrate this necessary skill which they are asking for. It can also help you pass through applicant tracking systems or ATS. There are certain sites, certain software which can give you an ATS score. You just upload your resume and ask them how good is it. You get an ATS score from there, and I've listed a couple of sites here. Now, this is certainly not an exhaustive list. There are several other tools that you can use in order to see how well your resume fares in relation to the applicant tracking system. You can make use of these tools in order to see whether or not you've managed to make your resume aligned with the job description. Okay. Crafting a resume or designing a resume. How do you utilize the space on a page? How do you incorporate all the relevant information in an easily readable manner without making a resume look very cluttered and crowded? Okay? These are things that we are looking for here. Looking at here. Earlier we had seen that one of the necessary sections of a resume is a resume objective or a resume summary. We also briefly spoken about the fact that there is a slight difference between the two. Both the resume objective and the resume summary act as a brief introduction to your resume. Before you get into the hardcore details, this is like a small introduction to your resume. However, a resume summary is more suitable if you have several years of experience. So you are just trying to summarize what were the most notable achievements or responsibilities that you handled over the years. A resume objective is more suitable for a fresher, just like, what was your name? Akbar, I think. You had asked me whether
It's
whether or not this is a session that is suitable for freshers. Yes, this is. This is indeed a session that is suitable for freshers. If you are a fresher, you would use resume objective instead of a resume summary. Because you're not trying to summarize your achievements. We don't have a lot to summarize when we are just starting out with our careers. Instead, we can highlight how skilled we are, right? We can highlight how well educated we are. We can also show our employer that we are very driven and ambitious and we are very much invested in this job. So they are going to gain a lot out of us. They hire us. We are quick learners. And one of the favorite data science students, one of the phrases that you guys use most often, I think, is problem solvers. We are great at problem solving, which is a very good phrase, right? Especially if you're starting out with your careers. So that the fan favorite, the crowd favorite is certainly understandable. Okay, one second. I feel like I have a question here. Let me just take a look at that. Can you manage an ongoing degree in a resume? Yes, you can. That is necessary. If you are applying for an internship while you're doing a degree, that is necessary. Okay, what? Vaishnavi, I don't get. What if I don't have that required skill, but I still want to apply for that job. Why would you do that? If you do not have the required skill, the thing to do would be to pick up the required skill and then make the application. What about someone who is trying to move from one field to another? Very relevant question. We will get to that soon. Pavak, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Pavak, it could be, right? Like fire. Yeah, it could be. I am not sure. I apologize if I am. Oh, it is Pavak. Okay. You said that you can add achievements on educational. So what all can be included in educational achievements? I am currently a student of commerce and data science. Okay. So let's say you graduate as the student with the best academic performance in your program. Okay? That is an educational achievement. Right? On the other hand, let's say you have managed to secure first place in some hackathon. It is certainly related to your education, but that can be separately listed as an. Mukesh, I believe, was. Okay. Do we need to add our extracurricular activities or hobbies? Does that make any difference? No. In most cases, no, it does not make any difference. But sometimes certain companies have some ethos. Like, I do not know exactly how to describe that. If you are working with, let's say, as a project coordinator, as a part of an organization, in an organization that works with music or art and craft, if you, or history, for instance, right? I'm just giving you a wild example. You have to understand that I do not come from a data science background, so my examples will be drawn from my own background. You will have to work a little bit in order to adapt it to your own background, right? Let's say you're working as part of an organization which has that ethos. In that case, to say that you have been educated in Carnatic music or Hindustani music for several years and that this is your hobby would be relevant. In other cases, let's say you're applying for a data science job, but you do like to sing. In that case, it might not be relevant. So it depends on the context. It depends on the ethos of the company as well, the company culture, what it prioritizes. Right. If you have several years of experience, you would use a resume summary. If you are a fresher, you would use a resume objective. What else? We have another question to address here. What are the other situations in which you would use a resume objective? If you are changing careers, which I feel a lot of people do nowadays. You have worked for several years as an engineer, right? But now, after doing this degree, you want to work as a data scientist. You are changing your career, right? So your experiences so far might not be immediately relevant to the job that you are now trying to apply for. If there is a career shift of that sort, then a resume objective would be more suitable. If you are a fresher entering the workforce for the first time, resume objective, not a resume summary. If there is a significant gap in your employment history, which can also happen due to several reasons, in that case, it's like you're starting anew. You're starting once again. Then a resume objective would be more suitable. If you have several years of experience, you would use a resume summary like we discussed. If you are changing jobs frequently, and this is not the kind of job that requires you to have a shift in your career, the same kind of job working for different companies, right? In that case also, you would rather choose to list your resume summary rather than a resume objective. That is because you would have handled similar responsibilities in most of these positions. So you don't want to give a detailed description of all of that. Rather, you just want to summarize what was most notable or most important about these positions. If you're applying for a senior level role, now this goes without saying, because you would not apply for a senior level role unless you have a specific amount of experience, right? In that case, it would be more, yes, you can get these slides. You will get these under, I believe, supplementary materials. If you're applying for a senior level role, yes, you would use a resume summary. Now we are trying to apply for the same role, but with a different company. So essentially, the employer has a similar set of expectations out of you. Different employers, but similar set of expectations. In that case, also, you can use a resume summary rather than a resume objective. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Given here is a quick, easy, and cursory example of a resume objective and a resume summary. Please go through the two. I think it's already provided in the portal named workshop. Okay. Thank you, Ananya. Right. Now please go through the two and note the differences between the two while I have a quick drink of water. Thank you. I'll join you in a few seconds. Has everyone gone through the examples? I just want you to notice how the objective highlights your ambition, your motivation, your qualifications, and your desire in addition to the skills that you possess. Whereas a summary is just a quick account of all the things that you've done over the years, over 9 years of experience. What have you done? Maintaining accurate accounting information for large organizations, very analytical professional, extensive accounting software knowledge. And you are not getting into the details here, and you're not trying to highlight the fact that you are very driven in this resume summary. You do not really list your educational qualifications in a resume summary because that is taken as a given. If you've done so much for several years, then obviously you would be qualified. That is assumed. Whereas in an objective, it is necessary to list that you have the qualification required. Right. This is a formula, a very helpful formula that you can use when you are trying to decide on what to include in your resume and how to include that in your resume. This will be very helpful to even the people who are just starting out with their careers. It's called the STAR method. STAR is an abbreviation and it stands for situation, task, action, result. So essentially, you think about what was the situation. Let's say, as a part of any one course, you're working on a project, right? What is the situation that was presented to you in that project? What task did you try to do there? What was your goal, right? What action did you take in order to achieve that goal? Did you work alone or did you work as a team? How did you manage those expectations? Did you lead the team? What did you contribute to the team? What result did you produce? How did it benefit the organization or the team? You ask yourself these questions and you will have, let's say, a paragraph as an answer. After you arrive at this paragraph, you will edit that paragraph. You will look very carefully at that paragraph and pick out the things that you want to highlight. Then you will reduce the paragraph into a very short, maybe one bulleted point, maybe a couple of bulleted points, which will go into your resume. Okay? It allows you to handpick the skills or qualities that you want to highlight. This is an example of using the STAR method in resume writing. You want to highlight initiative, organization, analytical thinking, writing, interpersonal skills, and problem solving. Okay? Now you're thinking about a situation where you were required to use all of these skills. Okay? What is the situation? The trainees were learning too slowly and they could not navigate the company's data tracking system by the end of the 2-week training period. They would not be ready for another 2 weeks. So what was the task that you needed to do? You needed to help the trainees learn the system faster. And what action did you take? You initiated, wrote, and edited the first training manual for the company's data tracking system. You are preparing a training manual for the trainees. When you send to the proposal, use the manual in front of the management. You revise the training program curriculum to implement the new manual. The trainees worked through the manual during the 2-week training period. Okay? Look at all these sentences. You are focusing on all the things that you did. Just like we are listing all of these sentences in this situation, in every situation you can find a lot of things that you do or contribute in order to achieve a goal. So you need to find the language, the skill to phrase it as required. And what result did you achieve at the end of it? At the end of the training period, trainees were ready to use the data tracking system 2 weeks earlier than expected, right? They did not need so long a training period. The training manual was adopted across the company and is still in use. Look at the impact that you've made there. This is the result. You have this huge paragraph and you edit it out, you tweak it, you reduce it to 1 or 2 sentences or bulleted points. Initiated, wrote and edited the first training manual for company's data tracking system, which cut training period in half, was adopted across the company and is still in use today. Look at how efficiently you're communicating in that final sentence. You can manage to do that if you work through each situation or project that you have encountered using the STAR method. Situation, task, action, and result. The answers to these questions can be edited or reduced into a very effective statement which can go into your resume in order to highlight the skills that you want to highlight. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now I just want to address, before we run out of time, I just want to address the questions that you have been asking since the beginning. Yes, the recorded sessions will be available. Okay? They will be available in your course calendar as a part of the English 2 playlist. The links will be updated, the links to the recordings. You don't have access to the course portal. How is that possible? Okay. I cannot share the slide links here because I don't think you mean slide links. Do you mean slide links or recording links? If you do not have access to the course portal, I feel like that is a larger issue. You should have access to the course portal. That is necessary. As a part of the online BS degree program, that is necessary. Okay? In the course portal, you will have the links to the playlist updated, but they will not be updated immediately. That's what I'm trying to tell you. They will be uploaded, the recorded sessions will be uploaded to YouTube, and then the links will be updated on your course calendar or your course portal. It will take some time. This is just our first session, right? We have one more session to complete resume writing tomorrow. You've completed this course before. Okay, this is a strange predicament. I don't really know how to answer this. I will check with the others, with the other teams. One second. I will check with the other teams and I'll try to give you an answer in tomorrow's session. Okay? Right.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Preethadeep. Yes, Preethadeep.
Yeah, sorry. Actually, the thing is, the invitation for these sessions have been sent to all students, regardless of their current enrollment status. So, for example, even I have completed this course like 3 years ago. So,
Okay.
I think the recording links and the link to the session should not be restricted only to the current English 2 portal. Rather, it should be sent to all, like similar to the invitation.
Okay, I'll communicate this need with the team, and I'll ask,
Right.
and I'll let you know what is the final decision tomorrow.
Sure, thanks.
Okay.
And in either case, if it is available from the course calendar, that should be fine as well, because course calendar is public; it is accessible to everyone.
Okay, I think it should be available in the course calendar. I will ask and I'll check and I'll let you know tomorrow about this.
Okay, sure. Thanks. Thank you.
Okay. Now, we have seen how to use the STAR method. We have seen how we can condense a large paragraph of all the things that we did and all the activities that we undertook and all the results that we produced into a very concise statement which can be added to our resume. What I also want you to make note of here is that when you make this concise statement, you begin the statement with an action word. You are prioritizing the tasks that you did, the actions that you did, your own involvement as a part of the task. Look here. Initiated, action word, wrote, action word, edited, action word. Right? So you are drawing the employer's attention to all the things that you have done. In order to do that, you can start the bulleted point with an action word, highlighting the things that you did in order to achieve a certain result. Designed, supervised, gained, authorized, authored, staffed, tested, created, enforced, evaluated. All of these are action words. Action words are quite simply verbs, right? You use these verbs in order to head the bulleted point in your resume so that whoever is reading your resume will be immediately drawn to the things that you did and to the results that you produced. Right. I will stop here so that I do not overstep the 6 o'clock mark. You also want fluency. Ma'am, Sahil Kumar has a question. Oh, okay, Sahil Kumar, what is your question? Oh, okay, can you suggest some techniques to achieve fluency? Is that what you're saying, Harsh Kansar? I also want fluency. Okay, so this is not a huge deal at all. You just practice talking. I do not have a great deal of fluency. I make a whole lot of mistakes. So you just practice, you make a lot of mistakes, and you learn to talk. That is it. I will stop here. We will continue in tomorrow's session. Thank you, everybody, for joining today's session. I hope it was helpful to you, and I hope you'll be here tomorrow as well.
Can I have your name?
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, what's your name?
You're welcome. My name is Tessa. Okay. Can you talk about ATS scoring? How about we talk about it tomorrow since we're out of time today?
Thank
Okay.
you, ma'am.
You may all now leave the meeting. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.